I'm VJ Hamilton and welcome to the Autoimmune RESET, the place for you to learn how to thrive with autoimmune disease and feel empowered to take steps to transform your health to feel better than ever. You can start making changes today to improve your health. So with every episode, my mission is to share with you simple ways to up-level your diet and lifestyle with key learnings from my own journey reversing autoimmune disease and inspirational stories from those who have reset their autoimmune symptoms and are now thriving in life. I suffered from autoimmune disease for over 25 years and now I live symptom-free, and I wish the same for you as well. So thank you for being here and sharing this time with me. Now let's get started. Hello and welcome to today's Friday 5 episode. I'm your host, VJ Hamilton. I'm a nutritionist, scientist and expert in autoimmune disease. And today I want to talk to you about your story and what this reveals about the cause of autoimmune disease. And I'm going to be talking about 5 key factors that you really need to be looking into when you think about your story. Because when I work with clients, this is where we start. We go through their health history to understand how their autoimmune condition or inflammatory condition developed over time, because there is so much research around this now, and we know that there are definite links with certain lifestyle choices and certain pathogens that we come into contact with and certain things that happen in our lives, and this can lead to the development of an autoimmune disease. And this is what I'm looking for when I'm going through my client's timeline, and it's what I want to share with you today, because you can have a think about this yourself for you to determine how your autoimmune condition or inflammatory condition has developed over time. And the reason this is so important is because when you know what caused it, you can then address those underlying root causes, and that can help you significantly with your symptoms. And that's what I did as well. The first part of your story to consider is, of course, your childhood. And there is something called adverse childhood experiences. And what they have found is that when children go through certain experiences, it can dysregulate their stress response and it can have an effect on the immune system. And as a result of that, you are more likely to develop an autoimmune condition. It doesn't mean you're going to, but it just means you're more likely to, especially if you are genetically susceptible. And you can do a questionnaire, which I have and I use in my clinic. And you can complete that questionnaire to know what your ACE score is. And adverse childhood events can be linked to lots of different things that can happen to us in childhood. It can relate to your parents breaking up. It could relate to losing a loved one early on. It could relate to domestic violence. There are lots of different adverse childhood experiences that can affect you. That's how that questionnaire can help. And you can look at your ACE score, and it looks at the number of adverse childhood experiences that you have been through, and from that you get a score. And the higher your score, the more at risk you are of developing these chronic conditions. It's just worth understanding that, because if there is an issue from your past, or if you have experienced these adverse childhood experiences in your life, then there might be some emotional healing that needs to happen if it hasn't already. And it may be the place for you to start focusing on to get your stress response back into functioning as well as it can do, and also to really set you on a solid foundation when you are working on your health. Because when you have imbalances in your stress response, but also how you're feeling emotionally, it is hard sometimes to move forward and make the right choices for yourself. And I have been through this process myself, and I will be doing another episode on adverse childhood experiences and talking about those in more detail. The second area is infections and illnesses. One of the questions I will ask my clients is, did you get ill a lot during school? Did you have long periods of time off school? Have you been away on holiday, or have you been traveling and you ended up with a stomach bug? I want to understand whether infections could be part of the development of their condition. And there is lots of research that support that a high viral load or certain bacteria that can reside in the gut or certain pathogens and certain fungi can be linked to autoimmune conditions. So if you have been ill with a throat infection when you were younger and it was a recurrent throat infection, then I might be thinking, oh, well, perhaps strep throat is part of this picture. Or if somebody was off school with glandular fever and they had to take 2 to 3 weeks off school, then I might be thinking more about the viral aspect of their condition. So it's worth knowing in your story, on your timeline, how many infections have you had? How have you responded to those infections? And how long after those infections did your autoimmune condition or chronic condition start to develop? And that's going to give you some great insight. And again, if there is a pathogen element to your condition, then by addressing that, which may still be in your body, by addressing that, that is going to help to remove what was triggering your autoimmune condition in the first place. And that's going to help you to recover. The next area I look at are any significant life changes in my client's story. When I ask my clients about their health history, I will ask the question in a way of what has been significant in your life from a life and health perspective, not just a health perspective, because it's not just health issues and infections and those types of things that affect us. Big life changes can have a huge impact on your immune system, and that can lead to autoimmune conditions. And I know when I've been through significant life changes, I have experienced a flare in my autoimmune symptoms. And I had this when I moved to London. I had this when I have gone traveling. Significant life changes can be unsettling, and they can create a lot of anxiety and stress, or even just excitement, and that can have an effect on your immune system. So major life changes might include starting a new job or moving to a new place, or just substantial shifts in your daily routine, and that can have a knock-on effect to your stress response. It can have a knock-on effect to your immune system as well. So it is worth looking at whether a significant life change has contributed to your symptoms and your condition. And you might think, well, understanding that, what does that mean? Well, for me as a practitioner, it means that there is some imbalances probably in the stress response, and potentially there is more work to do around that. And that's what I would be exploring, because life changes are going to happen, and I don't want my clients going into an autoimmune flare every time there is a life event. Because we all go through them. But what you want to do is make sure that you build a strong and robust body, that when these things do happen, you move through them. And yes, they are going to probably create a bigger burden on your body and your resources, but you will know what to do in that instance. And that's where I like to get my clients to. The next is your living environment. What I find is clients may start developing hair loss or skin issues when they are living in a damp environment, for example, when there is mold there. And your living environment might not just relate to mold. There might be pollutants in your environment. Potentially you're living near a field with pesticides, or there might be chemicals. You might be using chemicals in the house which are affecting your health, that are endocrine disruptors. So your living environment is absolutely vital to your health, because you are in that the majority of the time. And you can actually use this with your work environment as well, because there is a thing called sick building syndrome. And when I was working for a company, they had a huge renovation and they ripped up all the carpets and they did some amazing things with the office. But every time I went into work, I got ill, and I would have to have a week off work, and then I got better, and then I went back into work and I would get this really bad chesty cough. And I went to the doctors and they just gave me some antibiotics, which I didn't end up taking. But the doctor did actually say to me, I think this is a dust allergy. And I was going into work and it was creating this horrendous cough and issue with my chest. And I probably had a leaky lung barrier at the time because I hadn't got fully well at that point. But I noticed it was when I went into the building. And I'm so glad my manager at the time knew about this condition, and he just allowed me to work from home until the renovations were over. And I did go in occasionally, but I just couldn't go in for the whole day. So you can think about your home environment, but also think about your work environment. And that potentially may have contributed to your autoimmune condition. And then lastly, I would say any extreme approaches when it comes to what you are eating can have an impact on your health. And it might mean that you have started following a specific diet where there are food restrictions, or you might have started eating less for whatever reason, or you might have started eating far more than you were eating before, and maybe not the best food choices. And because food can play such a part in the development of an autoimmune condition, it can create inflammation, but also nutrient deficiencies can cause your cells to become dysfunctional, and that can contribute to autoimmune disease. That any change in food can have a huge impact on your health. So again, when I'm working with my client, they might have gone traveling, they may not have had as much access to food. Then again, I'm thinking, okay, so nutrient deficiency could be part of this picture, and we will work on adding more nutrients to their diet. So they're the 5 main factors that I'm looking for when I'm working through my client's story and they're sharing this with me. The great thing is when I'm working with a client, when they tell me their story, because I've seen hundreds of clients now with autoimmune conditions, by talking to my clients and understanding their story, I start to build a picture, and it starts to give me the information that I need that kind of ties it all together, so I understand what might be at the root of this. And when I find out what my client's symptoms are at the same time, I bring it all together, and that really helps me determine where there might be weaknesses in certain systems that we need to support. And I also have the functional medicine matrix that I use, which is a great tool, and it helps me to bring together all this information and plot it out so I can tell which system in the functional medicine matrix I need to focus on. On top of that, I do run my cell health test, which is the metabolomics test, which looks into a lot of different areas, including nutrient deficiencies, neuroinflammation. It looks at whether there are any imbalances in the gut. It looks at various neurotransmitters that are related to the stress response. And again, when I see that and I see some of the markers that might be out of range, as well as understanding my client's story plus their symptoms, then I have such great insight into what might be going on in my client's body. And that's what we do. We take a step-by-step approach. We work on those underlying imbalances to help them with their health. And that's the approach that I took 10 years ago. And I am now over 8 years symptom free as a result of doing that. And I tried not to overwhelm myself on the journey. I knew that if I just kept going and kept working on these imbalances and just focusing on those rather than thinking too much about the autoimmune conditions that I'd been diagnosed with. And I just found over time that I went from strength to strength. I didn't notice, to be honest, even though I'd been living with these symptoms for such a long time. I just realised one day that I was feeling loads better, and I was able to get up in the morning, and I hadn't had any hair loss, and my skin wasn't itchy, and I was able to wear certain tops that I just stopped thinking about it. And that's where I really want everyone to get to with their autoimmune condition. I know it's not the case for every autoimmune condition. Some are more severe than others, but I think by working on your health and taking this approach is the least overwhelming way to do it, because you're just taking it a step at a time. You're just working on specific systems and specific areas in the body, and that is going to help you move forward. And that's the main thing. Just move forward. You don't have to get to an end goal. And I'll be honest, there isn't an end goal, because as you get better and feel better, you'll realise that you didn't feel great before. At the minute, I feel like I feel amazing, but I'm sure there is still more work to do. And I'll probably look back on me now and think, gosh, I thought I felt really good, but now I'm feeling even better. And just realising that there was still work for me to do. So I hope you found this helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to pop over to my Instagram account, which is at the Autoimmune Nutritionist. You can also join my free group, the Autoimmune Forum, which is over on Facebook. And if you are keen to work together, I will put the link to book a free initial consultation in the show notes. So if you are thinking about making changes for your health, you have been living with these chronic conditions and you want to take a natural approach to addressing them, then feel free to get in contact. If not, have a great rest of your weekend and I will speak to you soon. Take care. Thank you very much for joining me today on the Autoimmune Reset. I really hope you enjoyed the discussion, and be sure to subscribe to the podcast so that you never miss an episode. And if you liked it, I would hugely appreciate a review on iTunes, as it helps me understand what you like about the podcast and to help share the information with more people. I'm excited to speak to you next time, and remember, you have the power to take the reins on your health. So keep the faith and celebrate the small wins. Until next time.